Hello everyone. In this video, I wanted to cover anticipation behavior. I'm just going to jump into it straight away. And it's essentially where people are anticipating a high or low to be broken. And it really does allow you to be using that specific high or low as your invalidation. Just to give you an idea how it works, really good and basic example here. We've got two of them really, where you have a high. Okay. You then have a gap until the next high here in the chart. You then have this high up here. And what you have between this gap is new positions opening with anticipation of the high to be broken there, this high pivot to be broken. The good thing about it, yes, it's just a sweep in liquidity, but the good thing about it is that it gives you a really clear invalidation of allowing yourself to say, the idea is invalidated once we breach this high here. Now, if we just turn on net longs or net shorts within X, so you're able to see here, for example, I want to be tracking what's happening as we breach this high here, this gray marker. I'll actually make this real quick for you in orange. You can see as we're breaching this high, new longs are entering. Okay, so you're breaching this high, new longs are entering. And if we're playing off this behavioral inefficiency in this sense, you're actually seeing new longs enter. Therefore, you actually are seeing people anticipate this high to be broken. I mean, they're longing with either one, the anticipation of this high to be broken, or maybe even much higher ones. But either way, they're becoming trapped and be caught offside. I would still use this overall high as my invalidation because price can still peep around here for a bit until you see the rejection. Okay, but this is just the overall premise of how it works. You know, you're going to have a high or low in the chart and you're going to identify a point in which, okay, people are going to anticipate for a specific level to be broken before then, you know, getting involved. Very similar to how even down here, okay, the last low before another, you know, a decent gap until the bigger low here. Okay. People down here are probably anticipating, you know, are people shorting down here is what you're going to be thinking. Generally, I don't want to see a swing failure pattern of such like this. I mean, you can still look at net shorts, for example, down here. I mean, you have actually a ton of new shorts within this specific candle itself, but I want to see a bit more of a deviation just below here into this zone before then seeing the retrace. Okay. This is anticipation behavior, people shorting, you know, with anticipation of this low being taken, but then it just continues rallying. And then that's kind of the pressure point for them to exit the trade. You know, and you'll see this a lot if we just go again and find another example, because it happens really a lot. Even here, for example, I would say this anticipation behavior again, really nice and obvious one, really, in my opinion. It's more so in confluence with low volume nodes, which I'll do another video on later. But you have these highs here, okay, 1, 2, 3 highs, you know, consecutive highs, and then all of a sudden you have these highs up here, obviously. Okay. So then what's happening upon the breach of this, you know, this key level here, you know, again, with the invalidation potentially being up here, you're seeing tons of new longs entering here. Okay. Now, probably one of the main questions you're going to be asking is, okay, if we're seeing new longs enter here, can't I just, you know, enter upon the point in which they're caught offside? Yes, you can. I'm just talking from my personal experience. This specific setup I trade, I'm not diving too much into it because there's certain things I don't actually want to give away, if I'm honest. You know, I'm placing my valuation a bit wider because I've seen multiple occurrences where, you know, you can see something like this happen and then you get the move down. But still the premise of, you know, is very similar to trap trade. It's essentially the same, but you can look for and have a hard stop above a high, for example, to say that's when the idea is invalidating itself. And you can see here again, this isn't a swing failure pattern of anything. People will just be thinking, okay, we're just rejecting here for no reason. Also, you're coming into a high volume node, but you are seeing new longs trying to break this high here and anticipate this overall high being broken on that sense. So this is just the example of it. One more thing I'll talk about here is this works fantastic on the higher time frames. So, and what I mean by higher time frames is not probably what you're expecting. So what you're seeing here are actually session candles. Okay, each individual candle is representing a session. So right here you have, for example, Asia, London, New York close, okay, and in reference to what I was discussing there, you'll still have this anticipation behavior on much higher time frames, and it gives you really good levels. So for example, you have a major pivot in the chart here, and then you have a major move away from it, okay. This would be the level I'd mark out as anticipation potentially creeping in. Same way as we're looking towards the highs, okay. You have this high up here. If price breaches this level, people are going to be anticipating this high overall to be taken. You can expect anticipation behavior there as well. So it really does offer this kind of play of, you know, you can have a lot of anticipation coming into the market where people are expecting a high to be taken, etc. Even here, major high, rejection from it massively. And then you have this high here where people are going to be expecting the overall high to be taken, move into it, and then you get a really big, decent pullback. You know, this is session timeframes, remember that. So you can be using this to refine where you're going to be getting into the market, essentially. Even like down here, you know, you have a low, massive move up. Okay, this low's of interest, marking this out. And you spend a lot of time down here as well, right? So, but you can be using this as your overall invalidation for the idea, same as up here. Anticipation behavior. Again, you still get a pullback off this. I've not seen a single soul talk about this. So yeah, it's just something I use quite frequently myself. There is a ton more nuance around it, but still just for a reference. Hopefully it makes a bit of sense. Even again, I'll go over another example just here. And you might be thinking, you know, anticipation behavior, where they're going to be trying to exit, you know, where would they be profitable if this is breached? It doesn't breach it. This is too close. I still would like to see a bit of a, you know, more distance between this happening, but overall your idea is invalidated once that high is breached, and it never got breached. So again, yeah, I'll do another video on this type of stuff. Hopefully this is something new. You know, everyone really talks about the same thing, but hopefully you found it valuable of some sense. And I'll catch you later.